Pianist Christopher O'Reilly and cellist Matt Heimovitz are classically trained musicians, but both believe music doesn't have to be classical to be good. The duo's Penn State concert, based on their album Shuffle.Play.Listen, features classical, rock, jazz, and pop music. PreViews writer Jennifer Pensick speaks with O'Reilly about what it means to be a contemporary artist and his fondness for various music genres. O'Reilly also discusses his 14 years as host of National Public Radio's From the Top, which showcases today's most talented young classical musicians.
You've spent the past 14 years hosting NPR's From the Top and hosted the television version for a few years. How important is it to nurture and appreciate up-and-coming artists?
Well, we're in our 14th year now on radio and starting to go a little bit international. We did our first international show with the Youth Orchestra of Columbia, and then went to the Central Conservatory in Beijing, China, and did 2 shows there. I think it's important to appreciate young musicians, not only to keep the health of classical music alive, but more importantly to give the message to the listening audience that these kids are playing classical music, but they're doing all kinds of other things as well. They're proof that the next generation of kids is not going to hell in a handbasket, and there is reason for hope because they are really excelling and applying themselves in some really wonderful and passionate pursuits. So I think it's less about classical music and more about just kids growing up into being really exciting and contributive citizens, really.
Do you find it also helps break the stereotype that young people can't be passionate about classical music?
Exactly. Well, the whole thing is that these kids play classical music, and it's part of their lives without which they, would not do well. I mean, they would not enjoy their life as much without classical music. But it also gets across the fact that you don't have to be into it 24/7. And if you clap in the wrong place, we won't kill you. And I think the idea, that the kids really are the best emissaries for this music. They're coming on the program, they're playing literally their favorite 5 minutes of music, and they also get to talk to me about and talk to the audience about why they love the piece and why they love playing and what other things they get up to as kids. And that goes a long way, giving a leg up for, particularly uninitiated listeners who don't know about classical music.
Do you kind of have your own kind of definition of what classical music means? And, because I know that you've performed and recorded both classical and non-classical. Why is that important to you?
Well, I think it's important that, we live by the Duke Ellington adage, there are only 2 kinds of music. Good music and the other kind. And what he was speaking to at that point was a sort of a splintering of jazz into sort of the downtown Carnegie Hall George Gershwin version and the uptown Harlem version. But when I hear that, I'm basically hearing the idea that who decides what is good music and what isn't. I think performers have the responsibility. I, as a performer, have the responsibility to present that which I feel most passionate and devoted to the best of my abilities. And that has tread all over genre lines in my lifetime. And more so with the kids that are on the program, that's more and more the case. You know, they're into all kinds of music. There's all kinds of music that can give the kind of excitement and inspiration that we get, you know, in front row at a rock concert as we do at a Mahler Symphony concert.
Now, did you grow up listening to different types of music, or was there something that kind of, you know, drew you to classical but still kept you in all the other genres as well?
I started with classical and kept with it through my whole life. I just thought I'd be a little bit more popular if I played some rock music, so I tried that. And I kind of kept with it and played, you know, jazz professionally through high school. But when I went to New England Conservatory in Boston, I decided that it was better to, you know, just follow one path and get all I could out of the classical training. And that's generally the kind of advice that most people would give you, even if you were interested in trying a different type of music now and then. So it's only been in recent years that I've gone back over and started dabbling in pop music again and composing, things like that.
Well, I guess going on to the Penn State concert, you'll be performing with Matt Heimovitz. And, you know, you both seem to kind of, you know, break out of the box of classical music. Just for people that are kind of wondering what, you know, the concert's going to be like, what would you say that they can expect from it?
Well, we made our double record set about a year ago, Shuffle.Play.Listen, which is also the name of the concert. And it was, in a way, it was kind of an homage to the iPod, you know, the 10th anniversary of the iPod, and the idea that the proximity of different musics is really important and exciting. So, you know, putting your iPod on shuffle gives you, you know, Penderecki next to Portishead, and there can be some really interesting sort of commonalities. And in the classical pieces that we've chosen for that recording and that are included in the concert, there are elements of, you know, there are arrangements, for instance, in the classical realm that, of course, you know, the pop stuff that we do are arrangements, different transcriptions, different sort of ways of playing a piece, cello and piano as opposed to orchestra when we do our Stravinsky piece. We break it up a lot and have a lot of different styles and different works by different artists. But essentially, I think, you know, the audience can expect very high level, you know, and spontaneous and intuitive chamber music playing, because no matter what genre we're playing, we're listening very attentively and spontaneously to one another, and so it's at a very high level of performance. We do other pieces that don't appear on the record, and actually one of our next big projects is going to be a Russian CD. So I'm pretty sure at Penn State we're going to be rolling out our Shostakovich Sonata, which we will probably, you know, do interspersedly through the concert. In other words, we won't do all three movements at once, but we'll probably do one movement in the first half and maybe the second, third, somewhere in the second half. And so that also kind of gives it a sort of a 7-course meal kind of thing, where we're really setting it up as a menu, and we're really trying to make a dramatic sort of arc from beginning to end of the concert made up of these shorter pieces. So there'll be a lot of variety, but there'll be a lot of high-end performance and a lot of really beautiful music, I think.
Tickets are on sale for Christopher O'Reilly and Matt Heimovitz performing Shuffle.Play.Listen, January 18th, 2013 at Penn State Schwab Auditorium. Order online at www.cpa.psu.edu or by phone at 1-800-ARTS-TIX.